Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown featuring myself under the guise of Melon Lord, and yes, we have a full Eshin themed build up against Larks and his High Elf forces, bringing Alefanar, bringing my favourite, or one of my favourite characters, definitely my favourite elf character, up against me, a cruel foe indeed. Now we do have a couple of beasties in the mix as well to assist Clan Eshin here, but for the most part it is going to be sneaky skirmishers. We have a little pack of Night Runners as well as Gutter Runners over on this side. Gutter Runners, certainly one of the best skirmish units in the game. They're a pain in the butt. They have this snare net ability that not too many people know about, which actually slows down the speed and charge speed of nearby enemies, allowing them to escape that little bit quicker. Apart from that, they're just a gigantic pain in the butt. In the main force, we do have Skaven Slave Slingers dotted all the way along as well, so just cheap, cheerful, happy to be here and throw a couple of pebbles at the enemy formation. And on this flank, once again, we have the combination of Gutter Runners mixed in with Night Runners, teaming up in the ultimate tag team. Behind all of our little skirmish core, we do have a couple of Rat Ogres. We have the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep on this flank with another unit. And on the far side, we have just a lone basic unit, assisted here by double Wolf Rats with Poison and a Silver Chevron. And I think that's it for the... no more Wolf Rats on this flank, so only the two for us today. For our hero core, we of course do have an Eshin Sorcerer, trying to keep in theme. Now, Eshin Sorcerer is certainly undervalued by most. Very powerful cast lord for the most part, but unfortunately comes in the weakness of not actually having summons, which is what, a little bit, overtuned at the moment, I think. She's coming in with Brittle Bones, Armour of Darkness, and the Warp Stars. Apart from that, we of course have the basic Assassin, accompanying Deathmaster Snekic. Snekic, a badass, bad to the bone assassin character all round, coming in Whirl of Weeping Blades, as well as the Deathmaster Sigil, of course, the Concealment Bombs, Slippery, all that good stuff. And he's a really fun character to do, the ultimate high-risk glass cannon force. He will certainly slaughter Alefanar in seconds if he can engage with him, but getting there will be very tricky. For my opponent's build, we have a couple of Shadow Warriors over on this right-hand side. It wouldn't be right to bring Alefanar without his Shadow Warriors afoot. And yes, Alefanar is, of course, going to be bringing his Moonbow and Slippery. On the left-hand side, we have a couple more Shadow Warriors, and the main battle line is going to be made up with a mixture of Spearmen, who are in fact chevroned up as well quite nicely, as well as Cavalry. We have a Lyran Reavers here escorting double Reaver Archers. We have some more Reavers on the left-hand flank and some Silver Helms in the central pocket. These guys are really pretty good for their cost. They're relatively cheap. It looks like we've got the unshielded version here as well. Pretty decent shot cavalry. Should be able to run over a lot of my forces with their anti-infantry, and their main role is going to be to protect this double Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. Certainly expecting perhaps some mortars and so forth from myself, and that's why you bring the Bolt Throwers to really target those guys down. We also have a Mage of Light, kind of a Net and Shem's Burning Gaze. So a really fun build. I actually think Alefanar can do really well here. He's very good up against these squishy Skaven characters for the most part. Looks like right now he's going to be aiming after those Rat Ogres for creating a fake double ganger of himself as well, who doesn't actually do any damage, but he will be able to run in and take some shots, and looks like he's actually taking a few pebbles here as well from myself. Over on this flank, we're getting very aggressive with our Wolf Rats, just absolutely yeeting them in straight after the Shadow Warriors. My opponent is forced to move his archers into combat, and if the Wolf Rats can stabilise, they'll be able to chew through these guys relatively quickly, but that is going to be a big problem, is can they stabilise? We've run them in a little bit unsupported. The plan was to move them in with the Rat Ogres, but the Wolf Rats simply too fast for the Rat Ogres to catch up, have got me into a sticky situation over on this flank. However, the Gutter Runners and Night Runner kind of support fires doing an absolute wonder, but should drag down a ton of those Reaver Archers. Rat Ogres now getting in a juicy little engagement as we continue to pile on the pressure on this flank as much as possible. One big problem for me, however, is the deployment of my opponent is really just to the one side of the map, kind of hiding away here. So the rest of my forces are having to do a long jog over to this flank, and I probably should have actually not engaged on this left-hand side, pulled back instead, and pinned my opponent in before engaging on all flanks. But as you can see on the left-hand side, it is going very shaky for us. Both Wolf Rats have been dealt with at this point. Rat Ogres as well over-isolated on this side. Shadow Warriors just raining fire down. They've done a ton of damage as well. This unit is down to half health, this unit, but overall definitely more cost effective for my opponents. We can force off a few of these units though with the consistent pressure from the Gutter Runners and Slingers, and it looks like we do have some Wolf Rats returning to the fray as well. Perhaps all is not lost just yet. On the other flank, we do try to shut down the Shadow Warriors with the Rat Ogres. In fact, the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep, who end up butchering some Lyran Reavers, but then themselves get harassed by the Warriors, as now Pebbles do start to find their marks a little bit earlier. Moonbow does come in, just big boom damage onto the Deathmaster there, who's not enjoying his day so far. But luckily for me, my opponent does start to overextend with a couple of units of Spearmen. He's obviously trying to keep me away from the Bolt Throwers and the Reavers, but at this point these guys are completely isolated on their own, and we're just going to turn around and absolutely butcher them. You can see Rat Ogres as well as the double Assassin crew Look at him go, look at little Deathmaster. He is bounding towards the enemy and he'll be able to carve up spearmen in big old spurts and clouds of blood and bone. Pitfire's going to come over here as well to start pounding down the spearmen who have instantly broken. And as well, a ton of pebble fire coming in. But it is buying time for my opponent to continue to shoot into our troops. Those bolt throws have been rather successfully aiming at the pit fighters. Although we do manage to break off the spearmen. And a similar situation may happen to this unit as well if it remains out here. We do come with our lovely little shuriken shots from the Eshin Sorcerer. Aiming after the Mage of Light, but unfortunately catching the thick spear wall of the Elvish Spearman. Left-hand scrap is still going on. I'm not giving up on this push whatsoever. We've managed to break through now. Lane Reavers have been dealt with, as well as Silver Helms. Gutter Runners charging into combat with the Shadow Warriors, trying to bug them down as much as possible. And now we have the Rat Ogres going to be moving into the fray. And yes, they're very beat up, but still 6 gigantic, crazy, Warpstone-infused rats are going to be a pain in the butt to deal with. Lovely play by my opponent. They're going to be sandwiching us in with the Illyrian Reavers. A Shem's Burning Gaze does go down on the Deathmaster. Consumer Bombs were popped, but he was already spotted, I suppose. So unfortunately, he isn't able to juke that, and he's certainly not having the best performance by him so far. Eshin Sorcerer is doing an overcast shuriken shot, though. I think they're going to go off. It looks like they took damage from the overcast. Perhaps those shots are bugged out there. It looks like he didn't actually fire. Maybe getting pushed over by Alephanar's accurate Elvish bowfire. It looks like the mage is considering coming a little bit too close to enemy territory here. But she is hit by an Assassin's Trophy, which is going to be lowering all her stats, and she thinks better of it, as the Assassin now does take the focus attention from Alephanar. But in come those shuriken shots this time, and getting some really big burst damage onto the mage there. Beautiful stuff. It looks like our core of Skaven Slave Slingers are now on the run from the Reavers. This is a mistake by me. For some reason I thought they were 360 shooting, which actually makes no sense because of the amount of units I have, so we are currently fleeing with them and not actually doing any damage. We do realise this mistake, charging one unit of Skaven Slaves, and the others can turn to start throwing pebbles and engaging. In the distance, we have forgotten about the Wolf Rats, and over on this flank we have some Gutter Runners simply kiting back some Spearmen, which is good value for my opponent. It's keeping them out of his back line. But we are pressuring this right-hand side. Night Runners are charging down at the Shadow Warriors. Over on the far side, we finally do commit the Deathmaster to a fight, scrapping his way through the last of the Silver Helms with the help of a ton of pebbles, before we can push back into the Shadow Warriors, although he's taking a ton of burst damage at the same time. And it looks like we've thrown more shurikens at this mage, this cursed mage, taking massive damage here once more, as the assassin stalks his prey. He goes down on all fours to keep low, ducking shots there from bolts left, right, and centre, aiming for Alephanar, but then a cheeky elvish trickery does come into play, and into the fray, I should say. Their Vampire does go down. We pop Slippery as well as Concealment Bombs as Shem's Burning Gaze comes in, however, and this assassin is getting just beat down. We do a little bit tiny bit late here, put a Armour of Darkness on him, giving that 22% missile resistance and 60 armour, but he's already taken a huge amount of damage at this point. The Eshin Sorcerer wants to get a little bit of revenge for his buddy, once again throwing those shurikens at the Mage of Light, bringing them to super close to death, and in fact breaking them from the battlefield, at least for now, which is certainly good news for us, as Balance Power is very heavily against us. We've managed to shut down a lot of the Shadow Warriors now. Skaven Slave Slingers have been forced in an engagement they're not going to terribly enjoy. Shadow Warriors are brutally cutting foes, and with their blades they're not as deadly as they are with their bows, but still pretty powerful. Silver Helm's kind of a lovely shock charge as well, which will simply better break the low leadership of the Skaven troops, which you can't really blame them for. Deathmaster has some of the most badass, coolest animations in the entire game. I love the blade attached to his tail. It's such a cool thematic little kind of tool for him there. And he's going to be spinning, teleporting, and slaying Shadow Warriors, man. I need to do a video of like Deathmaster's just animations on his own. He has some of the best ones for sure. And it turns out Eshin Sorcerer is on the run. A ton of pointy-eared princesses are hunting down at Eshin Sorcerer, who once again overcasts and explodes himself in the face, which is the Skaven way. I think that actually cancels his spell as well, which certainly isn't too good. Although the Assassin's Trophy has gone down on Alephanar as well, as the Assassin tries to bomb rush in onto his play, but now he is seeing double. That's never a good sign. He does manage to just about catch the real Alephanar and do a little bit of damage, but the Silver Helms are here to support. Beautiful play by my opponent with the Silver Helms throughout the entire game. In the distance, we have a few units who are coming back, some Skaven Slaves who have rallied, and Gutter Runners who have butchered those Elvish Spearmen on the flank. Wolf Rats still forgotten by me. We've got some Rat Ogres as well who do need to once again return to the fray. And the Balance Power is all of a sudden dead even once more. That is obviously due to the fact that we've now managed to do some okay damage to Alephanar all round, although our assassin has been dealt with. Armor of Darkness was still popped on him, and Deathmaster just can't catch a break. He's desperately trying to get onto the bolt throwers, but Alephanar is just whacking him with those big fuddering shots into him, and yeah, he's not having a good day whatsoever. Silver Helms have now surrounded him, and the Deathmaster pops a concealment bomb, trying to be all sneaky-like, but that's not going to save him, I don't think. Looks like Silver Helms are being hit by a brittle bones, going to allow the Deathmaster to chew through them a little bit quicker. The Shadow Warriors are still fine, a little bit of ammunition left on them. The Eshin Sorcerer is continuing his Benny Hill style chase, but all of a sudden, with my forces depleted, the Deathmaster going down, Balance Power swoops massively against us. Rat Ogres desperately trying to charge in on the enemy and catch up with those Shadow Warriors, but they're already wavering, and a big shot coming by Alathanar once more on those Bolt Throws, who did such a fantastic job all game, does slay the last of the Rat Ogres. We are scrapping though. Eshin Sorcerer hiding behind a little hill here, or should be hiding behind these rocks, instead decides to stand in the open and just absolutely vibe, getting riddled with arrows. And over here we do have some of the brave Skaven slaves who came back to the fray, probably pushed forward by the gutter runners who threatened to slice their throats if they didn't, are unfortunately going to break and run, fearing the elvish blades more than they fear the threats of the soon-to-be-dead gutter runners. So we're getting off one or two last volleys onto these Shadow Warriors who have overextended a little bit. Some more gutter runners who are currently hidden, going to be a little bit sneaky, coming into the flank to try and shut these guys down for good. Equal Bolt Thrower is now out of ammunition. That's going to be certainly getting some really fantastic damage value at the end of the battle. Alathanar as well still has a considerable amount of ammo left, where he can pick apart units like the Deathmaster from afar, as well as the Sorcerer to stop them from coming back into the fray. Gutter Runner is going to be coming in for a glorious assassination attempt, though. A little bit of vengeance for these guys, taking a book out of the, or a note out of the Book of the Dowie, I should say, the Damazangron or whatever it's called. And the little Gut Runners have some really cool blades out, their little Wolverine claws. And it looks like the Shadow Warriors will be insulting elvish kind by fleeing from a pack of ravenous ratsmen as they run and cower, screaming for Alathanar to save them. But Alathanar is a relatively cruel lord, I think. Well, no, he's not like evil, but I don't think he's going to be taking any running from his troops. That kind of disrespect. You know, I don't think he's going to be allowing you back in his army once you run away. He's simply going to let these guys die, get cut down before finishing off the rest of the Ratsmen himself in glorious hand-to-hand combat. And yeah, these Shadow Warriors actually, it doesn't really matter what Alathanar thinks, they're already going to be dead to the last man. They're exhausted and being cut down here. Not a good day for them whatsoever. Opponent does form a nice little Helm's Deep just in the end there, but I think my army did indeed shatter. And that was a valiant defeat. A really fun game, though. Very well played to Larks. We were coming in, having a little bit of fun on ladder with some skirmish Skaven builds. Was inspired by Falcon, who recently did a live stream. And he was kind of practicing with Skaven and so forth. I was like, you know what? I quite like the idea of Skaven. They're really fun and thematic, but I find the main way they are played, just a load of mortars and stuff, quite boring. So I thought I'd mix up and bring some fun builds. And Clan Eshin, we tried to do them proud, but we couldn't get our prey. The Shadow King was just too slippery. And again, we're very well played to Larks. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. We drop new content every single day. And feel free to comment down below, as well as join my Discord. There's a link in the description. You can send replays there, get involved in tournaments and live streams I host, as well as just chill out with a load of cool people and learn the game. All those links are down in the description, as well as links to my Patreon. And now all the links do work as well, because we finally managed to trick YouTube into allowing us to copy and paste them rather successfully. But for the build of Larks, of course, the mighty Alathanar, 1,446 damage value is pretty impressive stuff. Only 6 kills, but they were 6 very important ones, and that is how the Shadow King operates. 4,318 damage dealt, very nice stuff. There's some good nets as well from the Mage of Light. Unfortunately, the Shaman's Burning Gaze tended to miss, which can happen now and again, but good net play all round. The Spearmen, some of them performed really well. A few of them kind of really overextended. One of them did it correctly, and they were kind of pushing away a unit of Gutter Runners, but another kind of eventually got kind of pummeled down by Rat Ogres, but they were a nice distraction. And the main punching power, of course, was going to come from the 4 Shadow Warriors. Only 581 damage value on this one, but the other ones, 1,100, 1,100, 962. Beautiful play, and I think Shadow Warriors really do have a place here, and they certainly did a good job. Most Skaven large creatures don't have heavy armor, so the lack of AP isn't too much of an issue, allowing the Shadow Warriors to really shine. And the fact you have Stalk as well is just so vital up against so many mortars and long-range pressure from the force of the Skaven. Lane Reavers did an okay job as well. They were mainly sacrificial tools, but the Silver Helms were really key, coming in clutch multiple times to save Alathanar from the Deathmaster, as well as Cycle Charge on the front line, trying to keep my forces and Rat Ogres at bay. 821 damage value isn't insane, but it's what they actually brought to the battlefield, and that blockade role which really made them shine. Lane Reaver Archers as well did pretty decent, 700 value here, 500 on the other one, and the Bolt Throwers, 639 damage value as well as 597. Again, not the most insane stats all around, we've seen them get far higher before, but they were taking down key targets like the Rat Ogres, when the rest of my build would struggle to take down the cavalry. As for ourselves, the Death Master, of course, always a pleasure. And he's actually not terrible by any means, not a meme. He's just super glass cannon, a little bit tricky to use, and we didn't use him particularly well here. He kind of got caught out quite a lot by the mighty Aliphanar himself. We used our other hero far more successfully, the Eshin Sorcerer, again, with over 1,000 damage value, 3,113 damage dealt. If we got a little more luck at that first shuriken, maybe the mage would have died, allowing the assassin to sneak into the back lines in that mid-game. But beautiful play by opponents, keep him online, hiding behind those shield walls, and then coming in with those clutch nets. Apart from that, across the build, you can see it's just kind of our damage was spread relatively fair across. Particularly the Gutter Runners are a unit I really like. 500 value here, or 599, 508, 783, 1037. They certainly performed relatively well and got to use a decent amount of their ammunition. Unfortunately, we did Leroy Jenkins the Wolf Rats because they're quite powerful. For some reason, I was like, you know what, they can take on all these Reavers in combat. It's absolutely fine, unsupported. That certainly wasn't the case, and they are a little bit of a glass cannon themselves, can be slightly brittle-boned themselves. And the Ratogers did relatively okay, but nothing fantastic, getting filled with arrows from the mighty Shadow Warriors. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.